Welcome, everybody, to the preview of Carlton versus North Melbourne, Saturday, early afternoon at the MCG. It's going to be an absolute cracker of a day. So if you're tuning in and you haven't decided whether or not you're going to go to the G, make sure you get there. Like, subscribe, leave a comment on the page. Let us know how you think this game is going to unfold itself. Rightio, let's get stuck straight into this match. Carlton go into this game as favourite, understandably so. We've effectively flogged North Melbourne the last handful of times we have met them. It dates back to Good Friday, or dates back to Voss's first season as coach of Carlton back in 2022. But the most recent clash between the two teams was on Good Friday earlier this year, and Carlton absolutely belted the stuffing out of North Melbourne on that day. And it was much to my surprise, given how poorly we started the year, and the win against West Coast leading into the game, I didn't think was anywhere near a good enough form reference to smash North Melbourne with. And we come into this game with a very, very similar scenario, having accounted for West Coast quite comfortably, albeit not as comfortably as we did the first time around this season. And North Melbourne come into this game off probably their best patch of form so far this season. They were able to beat West Coast and ran Fremantle to within an inch of their footballing life last week. So they come into this game cock a hoot. And we get this game at the MCG, which is a completely different scenario to what we've had over the last 20 years. The last time we played North Melbourne at the MCG was all the way back in 2004 when Daniel Wells kicked that famous late goal. Ryan Houlihan, big shout out to Hoops. I know he's a fan of the channel, fan of our work. Hope you're doing well. An unfortunate kick late in the game. It ricocheted off his heel or ricocheted off his foot. It was a ground ball and went out of bounds on the full, and Daniel Wells ended up having a set shot after it from just outside 50. So don't know if we're going to get that type of game at the G on Saturday. We may very well have a close one on our hands, given what we dished up in the second half against West Coast. If that's anything to go by, it's going to be a tough day for us. But just going through this game, a fascinating stat for me, and people know I love the data and the numbers and the analytics. It's not purely the way in which I'm driven and the way in which we look at football, but what I found very fascinating about Carlton all year is that this first possession rate from a contest, we are number one in the league for gaining first possession of the ball from a contest scenario, but our conversion of that into clearance is among the worst in the competition, if not the worst. North Melbourne on a similar vein as well. They rank second for first possessions, so they will try to neutralise us at the source. I've no doubt about that. And George Wardlaw getting back into full match fitness, I think, is definitely going to be a point of difference that the North Melbourne midfield is going to try to exploit against our more cumbersome and more one-pace type of players through the middle. So it's going to be a battle for George Hewitt, Adam Chera, Patrick Cripps not really negate that North Melbourne midfield, but to gain an upper hand at the source. Tom De Koning and Tristan Jerry is going to be a very, very fascinating battle, a pivotal battle, especially with Mark Pitnet coming back into the team and Charlie Comben coming back into the team for North Melbourne. So a few big boys have been called upon for both of these teams. We know Charlie Kerner, he was always going to be fine with that calf tightness is what they dubbed it. So he will come out fit and firing and hopefully bag a whole heap of goals for us like he has done against North Melbourne in the past. So does Charlie Comben go to him? Do they go with Griffin Logue? We've got mismatches all over the park when it comes to our forward line. North's back line is very, very vulnerable. And if we decide that we're going to throw spares behind the ball against North Melbourne, well, God help us all. So just going through some of the score sources, which is a great reference for how your teams are performing. AFL Wheelo Ratings, wheeloratings.com do a phenomenal job with finding all the data from champion data to get an idea as to how teams are going. So scores from turnover, Carlton ranks well ahead of North Melbourne on this ledger. So Carlton is just above AFL, is just above the halfway point. So plus 0.7 scores from turnover. Collingwood is the best team in the competition with plus 23. That's the differential when you compare their scores from turnover to opposition. With regards to North Melbourne, they rank third last in the league. So we definitely have an advantage that when North Melbourne, at least from what we've seen over the first 12 to 13 to 14 weeks of AFL, North Melbourne, a little vulnerable on the turnover, and conversely, struggled to score going the other way as well. Scores from stoppage. We know this is a strong area for us. We are plus 5.5. Our differential is plus 5.5 and North is minus 2.1. So another edge for us there as well. Scores from defensive half. Almost even keel when it comes to the ranking in the league, but there is a bit of a gap between the teams. So Carlton with a minus 0.5 differential, scores from defensive half. North Melbourne minus 8.8, and Carlton scores from forward half are higher than what North Melbourne's are, plus 4.2 for the Blues, minus 9.1 for North Melbourne, rather minus 8.4 for North Melbourne. They rank in the bottom half of the table with regards to that score source. And scores from the centre bounce, Carlton rank ahead as well. We are ranked in the top 6 for the league, plus 1.2 is our number. And for North Melbourne, it's minus 1.4. So negative numbers everywhere for North Melbourne against the Blues. And just look, based purely on data, based purely on experience, based purely on what we've seen so far this season as a sample size, again, this game is very similar to what it should be against West Coast. We should be able to handle North Melbourne comfortably. That there are no excuses heading into this game yet again. And look, got the job done against West Coast. Did we manage a game in the second half? Michael Voss suggested on SEN mornings with Kane Corns and David King that was the case. And Charlie Curnow also did confirm post-game after the West Coast match that it was directive to gear down after he came off the ground, and Hudson O'Keefe also came off. But again, in my mind, even if you gear down, you should still be able to handle West Coast quite well. And I don't think we did in that second half, to be quite frank. We struggled to score when the game was geared down, which is something we really need to work on as a football club. And seeing Mitch McGovern go down back as a spare against West Coast when we were, 5-6 goals up, even more, just scream conservatism. It screams a defeatist attitude as well. And I don't like it, but I suppose the coaches to a certain point are going to persist with it. So the ground is an interesting scenario. I don't know how or if it's going to favour North Melbourne. It may very well, to get away from a ground that they've been belted at by the Blues on numerous occasions since Michael Voss has arrived at the club. But I think from our perspective, this is a game where, again, we need to be assertive. We need to be dominant. We need to defend with equal numbers behind the ball. We may even need to defend with North Melbourne being outnumbered as well, or North Melbourne outnumbering us, where you shadow mark to a point. You have one player guarding two blokes in the defensive zone. And then when we have possession of the ball, we try to get numbers ahead of it as well. So I want to see the Blues persist with Mitch McGovern as that forward alongside Charlie Curnow. I want to see what that looks like moving into the Port Adelaide and Collingwood game as well. I don't want to see him shift down back. I don't want to see us have spares down back, not against this opposition. Again, you have to grant them respect, but we also have to play not necessarily an aggressive style, but just back your players in. Back your players in those one-on-one scenarios. I know it sounds very, very simple, and back your players in with that shadow marking. If you're guarding two players in space, back that player in to do that as well. So interesting game coming up. I think we'll get it done pretty comfortably. I think it'll be between that 5 to 7 goal mark. If it's anything less than that, I think, look, I suppose to a certain point at the moment there are red flags and alarm bells going off everywhere with how we're playing. But it's another game we need to just win. We need to even the ledger. And again, it's still not good enough to where we sit at this point in time. We are still going to be outside the top 8, which is really, really disappointing at this time of the season. We should be far and away above where we are. And I put that as a percentage factor, if you were to weigh it up as to whether or not it's the players, injuries, or coaches, as to why we're in this scenario. As a percentage, I think the bigger percentage can be taken up by the coaches. I think we are tactically, we are not in the upper echelon of the league, and the way in which we play and the directive given by our coaches, I don't think is anywhere near good enough. And again, I think changes will be made in the off season, but that's to come in months' time. But this weekend, we just need to go out, get the victory against North at the MCG in front of our home crowd, and then quick back up to Port Adelaide. And last year on the quick back up, we dealt with it very, very well. So there's a sense of timing about this game for us against Port Adelaide next week. But let's get the job done against North Melbourne. Let me know what you think the critical matchups are in this game. We've got Luke Parker in some good form in midfield. Him and Cripps are probably going to go head-to-head. Does George Hewitt go to George Wardlaw? Does Harry Sheasel cop a tag from maybe Alex Chincotta? But what I did like about Alex Chincotta in that game is that as much as he has those run with rolls with Liam Baker and the like, he actually got ahead of the ball as well, and he did hurt West Coast going the other way. That might gear down against a team like North Melbourne, who are obviously better than West Coast, but 9 scoring involvements a goal. He was very, very influential and very impactful with ball in hand. He had great influence and very, very effective with the Sharon as well. So not necessarily about how many disposals you have, but what you do with it, that counts. So like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know how you think we are going to go at the MCG on Saturday afternoon. Let's even the ledger up at 7-7, and then we'll reassess from there. Go Blues.